Interestingly enough, last time you and I were in this studio, the news dropped that Arsenal were interested in this guy, and your face lit up. You were beaming. What now?
It very much did. You know, I was excited about it, and you know, how can you not be excited when you hear news that Arsenal could be in for Vinny Jr.? Obviously, he's one of the best players in the world. We all know that. But then when I went home later on that day, Nikki, I was thinking, actually, I don't think this can happen because of his financial demands. You know, they're going to want a transfer fee as well, regardless, because he's still a very young player. You know, you're going to have to pay the better part of 100 million for him, I'd say minimum, and then paying him, you know, the better part of 800,000 a week gross. I just didn't think was realistic. And you know, we can talk about image rights and whatnot, but I just didn't think it was ever going to happen. I don't think, when I looked at it afterwards, it wasn't realistic. Even though, you know, I might have been bursting the bubble of Arsenal fans, I just,
James, did you think it would upset the harmony of Arsenal as well, considering they don't really have too many big egos? He's like high energy, isn't he? He demands all the attention. He's a big game player on that massive salary. There would have been such a void. Do you think that could have upset the unit that is Arsenal?
Yeah, potentially, because Mikel Arteta has worked so hard over the course of the last 7 years now to build that culture. Let's bear in mind some of the issues he had at the start of his time at Arsenal, trying to get rid of players who didn't have the right attitude, who weren't willing to fight for the shirt. So they were able to get rid of the likes of Pierre Aubameyang and to get rid of the likes of Mesut Ozil as well. But this is one of the world's best players. You can understand why Arsenal were interested, and Arsenal fans should be delighted that your club are trying to target the best players in the world. I do think realistically Arsenal would have been aware there was going to be a very small chance they could make this happen. But with that in mind, they want to do everything they could. And still, he's not signed that contract yet, so there still could be a situation whereby he joins.
James, Arsenal have always been linked with the world's best players. You know, even when Wenger was there, Arsenal have always been linked. Being linked and getting it over the line are two very, very different things. If we had you made a good point there. If we had have got Vinny, it would be against what Arteta has done in the past so far with the signings. He is bringing a legitimate superstar. And when a superstar goes to a big club, that superstar is going there with an ego. He's going there as the highest paid player in the club. He's going there on a long contract. And he's going to go there and say, this is what you're paying for. I don't need to change my game for you. You've bought me as this player. And that's why I'm not sure it would have worked out with Vinny, because I don't think he's going to do the hard yards back. No. And you know, we've seen Arteta be very vocal, especially from the side, about players getting forward and getting back. I don't think he's that kind of player, and I think that's why Arteta loves Saka so much, because he does the hard yards. He's persisted with Trossard and Martinelli because they do the hard yards. With Vinny, he wouldn't be doing that, and then obviously the Premier League is a very different league to La Liga.
Yeah, puts the pressure on the rest of the starting 11 as well to do all of those hard yards you mentioned. Main character energy, that's what I was looking for when talking about Vinicius Jr. So what next? I mean, Barcola, we thought he was going to Liverpool. That doesn't seem to be over the line. Would he be a good option for Arsenal?
I mean, James, I think that's unrealistic. Because if they're talking about £150 million, I'm not sure Arsenal are going to part with that kind of money. I think they need to go back to the Nico Williams. I would go back to him. You know,
feels a bit underwhelming.
No, Nico. To me, when we was talking about Nico Williams after the Euros, everyone was excited. Everyone couldn't wait to get him through the door if it could have happened. It didn't happen. He's at Bilbao. He's had his injury problems last year. But if you see him in the when he came on in the final, he changed the game.
Yeah.
You know, he was fantastic. He was electric. You can see that there's real ability there, and he's a young player. I think someone like Nico Williams, someone like Yildiz at Juventus, someone that's young, that kind of model that Arteta's bringing in, those kind of players. I think they have to look at that now.
One thing we know is they are looking for a left wing, and they have been looking for one for a long period of time. They had interest in Mykhailo Mudryk, who eventually went to Chelsea, and we know that area of the pitch has been a bit of an issue for Arsenal over the course of the last few years, because I think it's fair to say Gabriel Martinelli hasn't kicked on from that season he had a few years ago, where him, Saka and Ødegaard all scored 15 goals in that season. We know they are interested in Bradley Barcola. We can look at what he did last season in Ligue 1, and actually when you look at Arsenal winning the Premier League last season, Victor Gyökeres was their top scorer with 14 goals, and then way down that list, the next top scorer, 7 goals. Eber Eze got 7. Look at what Barcola could bring to this Arsenal side. Albeit we know PSG are looking for around £140 million. And look at the game played there. A number of these games he didn't finish because of the number of options that PSG had and Luis Enrique had in those forward areas. So those stats are impressive, but imagine if he started every match and finished every match and played 90 minutes, those stats would be even more impressive. Of course, Ligue 1 is different to the Premier League, but Arsenal want to sign this player, but they'll be aware it's going to be difficult to do. It was difficult to do Vinicius. This will be difficult. There'll be other players on that list as well. They've signed Christophe Solis. Whether or not he can have that sort of impact this season, his goal record in Belgium has been remarkable. He's a very different player to what he was at Norwich, but can he replicate that in the Premier League? It's a big ask. That's why Arsenal will continue to look for a left winger.
I think when you talk about that, you're absolutely right. The Belgian league is very different to the Premier League. We see that with Gyökeres. Gyökeres was a monster in the Portuguese league, scoring goals all the time, and he was unbelievable. Then he's come to the Premier League, and like I said before, even though when you look at his stats, you would say, yeah, he had a good season because he scored 20 odd goals. But when you look about his overall performance, even those big games he played in, I watched plenty of games, and there was just things where you look at and you think he could do more. So with Solis, even though he's got great numbers last year, it's a massive jump. And Gary said there before with Solis, when he was at Norwich before, he didn't set the world alight, and that's not the Premier League. So, I mean, it's going to be, if we could get Barcola over the line, I would be excited by that. I would, because he still is
23, so he's still
exactly
much better.
But as well, I feel like he's more equipped to come to the Premier League, just because you see him playing in the Champions League and he's been lighting it up. League One. One thing about League One in France is very, very physical. Is very physical. So that's why I think it would be more likely for him to be able to hand the physical battles that he will in the Premier League.
He didn't always start the Champions League matches. It was Kvaratskhelia, Desiree Doué and Dembele who would often start, and then he'd come off the bench. So it begs the question, would Arsenal want someone who would usually start in those big games
he's
on
an
the
upgrade,
bench?
Nicky. He's an upgrade. He's much better than what we have here. I mean, when we look at these players, this is my guy here. This is my. I wish. I'd love to get Alvarez.
Well, do Arsenal just pivot from signing their left winger? If they can't sign the best left winger in the world, do you go all out and sign Julian Alvarez? Albeit the club want around £170 million. That's our understanding.
In 170 million, it's not happening. It is not happening. I mean, if it was like 120 or something like that, then yeah, I'll definitely go and get him, because he's one of the best strikers in the world, and he can play in a number of positions. He can play as a 10. He can play on the left side. We see that for Argentina. He did. But looking at this one, obviously, Kvaratskhelia.
He's not going anywhere.
Forget about that. Yeah, forget about that. Rafaelio, if you'd have come to me about 5 years ago, I would have said yes, definitely go and do that. But very wishy-washy. Sometimes you see unbelievable performances, and then you don't see it for like 4 games, and then he's back on doing it again. Nico Williams would be mine. Nico Williams would be mine, because again, his stock is not as high as it was after the Euros. He's young, he's electric, he can score goals. I mean, when we spoke about that Spanish team in the Euros, Yamal and him on both sides, it was frightening. I think if you had Saka and him, they would bring so much balance to the side. And it's exactly the model, the kind of player that I think Arteta would like to deal with, and obviously is Spanish.
Jay, can I just add some hypothetical faces? Elise here, Harry Kane over there.
Oh, okay. Nicky, now you're getting me excited. I mean, if that, they are very, very hypothetical.
I'm not like, come on,
dream
you never do it.
Dream signing.
Wouldn't he'd win you everything?
My dream signing, though, if I had to put someone on the left, would be Mbappe.
Oh.
That would be my dream signing, yeah, but that's just not. That's not going to happen.
No, wow.
Maybe in our dreams.
Okay, so we've gone through the dream unrealistic. Who realistically would you go for?
Yeah.
Who do you think's pretty likely? Williams?
I think you have to look at Williams.
He's been and
Arsenal have been linked to him before. Arsenal have been linked to him before, but because his stock was so high, it was big money again. I think you could go and get him now for like 100 million, and they'll probably sell him. It's Bilbao. If he has any aspirations as a young player to go and play at the highest level and go and win things, he should be looking at he should be speaking to his agent saying, listen, if this deal could happen, make it happen. And then Yildiz, I really like Yildiz at Juventus. I think he's a great young player. Again, he's electric, such a high ceiling, and I think he would be around, probably even less than that, I would probably say. But again, I would look at those two and say yes. And then the dark horse, I would go with Ndiaye from Everton.
He's been linked with the Saudi Pro League.
I mean, I would if I could get Ndiaye, and you're paying like the 60, 70 million for him, I would do it because he's been fantastic at Everton and he knows the Premier League.
James, a quick one. Arda Güler, would that be one?
Well, I
Could that happen?
think there's a number of names they've got on a list right now they're looking at, and they're working through those options. Clearly, Vinicius Junior would have been at the very top. Barkley will be up there as well. And we know there's money to spend at Arsenal because they were in for Morgan Rogers. They weren't willing to go to £117 million. And that pursuit of Morgan Rogers was seen as independent of the one of Bruno GUIMARAES. So we know there is money to spend. It's about getting the right player. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, Arda Güler is not the right player. He's left-footed. Okay. So he's not rapid. So like when you've got a left-footed player that's playing on the left wing, it would be like Phil Foden playing on the left wing for England. It's never quite as good. And even for Man City when he's best, it's never as good. So I think Arsenal will be looking for a left winger that's right-footed, so you can come in and have that link-up play, but then you can get to the line as well. Like Saka, it would be the same kind of model as Saka.
Okay, we could do this all day, and we're going to. Our reporter Gary Cottrell is out in Dublin covering Arsenal on their pre-season tour, and he joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Gary. You've been at the heart of this story regarding Vinicius Junior. Come on, give us the latest.
Would you want the short answer or the long answer? The short answer is that Vinny stays. The long answer is that there's confidence within the club, that they had discussions yesterday. By the way, he's arrived at the training ground in Real Madrid again this morning with his closest ally, his long-term manager by his side, driving him in to the training ground. So the nitty-gritty of the reasons behind him staying are having the final touches put to them. I said this yesterday ahead of the other big hitters in transfer news, with a lot of scorn actually on social media, but I'm sticking by it. Vinny stays. A new contract will be agreed upon where compromises are made, and this saga will soon be over.
Gary, with Vinny, did you actually think it was possible, knowing Arsenal's pay structure historically and the fact that Saka is the highest paid with £300,000 a week, which is gross, to then go and give someone like Vinny the better part of £800,000 a week gross? Was that realistically going to happen?
Well, as a former top player, that if a player comes in to the building who is on a massive wage, who's on more than anyone's ever been on before by a big chunk, the wage structure is smashed, that other players, even though they're saying, wow, Vinny's in the building, what a star, can't wait to play with him, he deserves to be the highest paid player, he deserves to be the poster boy, but not by that much. And if you're also a poster boy and a big player, and let's face it, the likes of Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice are, you're going to be, no matter how nice a guy you are, eventually knocking on the door and saying, well, there is no wage structure anymore, what about my image rights, can I get the same kind of deal, or something like the same kind of deal that he has got? But we're told that the Arsenal hierarchy and Mikel Arteta in discussion had said, look, we'll go for it. This is a statement of intent. We know that there will be baggage that comes with it. We know that other players will be wanting to have a similar deal or certainly improve on the deals that they've got, but we're willing to take that risk because we think that that could be the missing link in terms of changing ourselves from Champions League finalists to Champions League winners. But yeah, there was going to be a lot of problems, I think, coming with a player like Vinny coming into the building with the wages that he's got, with the deal that he's got, the image rights, etc.
So Gary, no Vinny, but they're going to get Bruno. What can you tell us?
Yes, Bruno GUIMARAES, I mean, if you're not going to get Vinny, then you may as well go for another top Brazilian, and that's what they've done, and it's pretty certain now that deal is going to be done. My understanding is that he won't be getting on any kind of plane soon and flying from La Manga, where Newcastle are having their summer camp, and flying to London for that medical. That really is now the final piece in the jigsaw, that medical, which I'm sure he will pass, but personal terms have been agreed. We know the player wants to join Arsenal, he's told the club he wants to join Arsenal. We know that the two clubs have agreed on a fee, 75 million, but I still think it'll be a few days yet before that is signed, sealed and delivered in terms of imposing with the Arsenal shirt and giving his interviews to the Arsenal website and the Arsenal social media. But certainly it seemed like Riccardo Calafiori and the players are aware that he's coming, because it was quite funny when I chatted to Calafiori after the match against Real Betis last night. He had to check with the press officer who was standing next to him whether or not the deal had been done yet before he could talk about it. So yeah, there's a bit of a clue that it's pretty close. Got some senior players, 9 senior players waiting to join you for preparations, and potentially another top player on the way. What can you tell us about Bruno GUIMARAES?
Yeah, we know half of the squad is still not with us. We had 4 players joining 3 days ago, so we know the context, but that's what we have, and we have to maximize every day that we are with them. We put a lot of work into them the last 10 days. Back to London now. We're going to have 2 games at home before we play the Community Shield. So yeah, ready for that.
But if Bruno is added to the mix, how much of a boost would that be?
I'm not going to talk about any players that are not Arsenal players.
When you go in for a player, a top player, and negotiations appear to be going well, and eventually it happens, how much of a boost is that, just generally speaking?
I can tell you the moment that something happens and we can announce it, I will give you my straight answer.
And Gary, you were there last night for the 3-1 defeat to Real Betis in Dublin. How did they look? Not in great shape, considering we're 2 weeks away from the start of the Premier League season.
Well, it was very much a pre-season friendly in terms of, do you know, when a different team starts the second half pretty much to the team that starts the first half, and even the team that started the first half, which did contain some household name, which did contain some potential Champions League and Premier League starters. Gyökeres was in the lineup, for example. Calafiori, we just spoke about, was in the lineup, for example. But there were 9 players who you would expect to see week in, week out in an Arsenal shirt, still back in London, just returning from their World Cup break. The English players, the Spanish World Cup winning players, Saliba from France, Odegaard from Norway, none of them are in the travelling party that were involved in Dublin last night. And by the end of the game, by the way, I don't know how it's actually mathematically possible, but Mikel Arteta had given 15 of his 18 substitutes some minutes, including double substitutions. For example, the 3 current Brazilians came on at half-time, then came off half an hour later and were replaced by 3 other players. So it was a pitch full of youngsters pretty much by the end of the match. So I don't think you can read too much into that result, although Mikel Arteta at the end, of course, was disappointed. He said there were too many mistakes made, particularly in Arsenal's own area.